structure is good. It's something that we need. It's something that like adults tend to try to do for their kid, build consistency and structure. And
Very
we
good
are
point.
not any different. We're adults, but that doesn't mean we don't need the same things. We just get to make our own structure and decisions. We don't have someone making it for us. So then it becomes your responsibility to make it for yourself. You have to parent yourself, essentially. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Coach Cody podcast. And so today I'm joined by Des, which hopefully will be a permanent thing. If you didn't listen to the last episode, highly recommend you do. But she was on that one and, just have too much fun. So, hey, a co-host makes it more fun. So I'm not just talking to a microphone, feeling like I'm talking to myself. But yeah, so today we're going to talk about the importance of routine, building structure, ways to keep yourself consistent, how to determine if your routine, isn't working for you, that sort of stuff. But before we dive in, Des, how you doing? What's new? How's life?
Life is good. It's the end of the summer almost, just about for us, getting ready to get the boys back to school. And that'll be nice to have a little break of not working from home with kids home all the time. As I've learned since we moved in together, it's fun. Other than that, just been trying to get through the summer. It's been a nice summer, which has been good. It makes me worried if it's going to be really hot and gross in August or what, but I'm just going to go with it and see what happens. It's been crazy mild. So yeah. But other than that, yeah, just working, working out, trying to get used to, sorry, my brain. No, I'm distracted. Just, trying to get used to getting a routine going and being a good mom and partner and doing a good job at work. And so kind of crazy.
And then, of course, we had the little tsunami thing we had to catch up on because your godmom is in Hawaii right now. So
yeah,
we had a little moment of like, oh shit, like there's a tsunami. Oh no.
We got that notification. It was like, oh no, it's the end of August. Is Aunt Tammy in Hawaii? Shit, let me text her. They were safe. They were fine. They weren't even really worried about anything because I guess they were up on high enough ground. So everything's okay, luckily.
Yeah, and it was pretty non-eventful at least. So that's a good thing. I think it hit maybe Japan a little harder, but not significantly.
Not too
I
bad.
think.
Yeah.
So everything, was mostly okay, probably except for Russia, where the earthquake actually hit at 8.7. But yeah, so all the things happening. We got tsunamis, volcano eruptions, a crazy political climate. So outside of routine, there is a lot of chaos going on, which is why it's so important to get into a routine and create less chaos in your life. So I want to dive into all the tips and tricks of building a proper routine for yourself.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So just to kind of share my own experience first. So I'm a very routine person to the point where I struggle to be flexible with it. And this year has definitely, taught me a lot. And it's also been like little exposure therapies to get me out of my routine. It's just something that I have not only used to stay on track with fitness, but to control my anxiety, or at least attempt. It doesn't always work, but it does help. Like routine is not bad. It is helpful as long as it doesn't completely run your life and you can't do anything else besides your routine because you're a robot. But so yeah, this year with the challenges of, fatigue and stress, just everything that hit really hard. I really struggled to stay in my routine. I couldn't sleep well. So it was fucking with waking up on time. And then it just felt like my whole day, it was just this domino effect because I refused to change it to adapt to what was happening in my life. And then I was just beating myself up and thinking that I was being a slacker, that I was just ruined and I was never going to get back into the swing of things. And it wasn't until, I feel like wasn't until I got blood work done and really started to see that it was something physical. I had like tangible evidence that I needed to make changes, that I started making changes to my routine so that I wasn't just feeling like a failure and beating myself up. And I think that's something that's really important within a routine, is also making sure it can be flexible and that you can adapt it to fit into times of chaos, because more often than not, our lives are full of chaos. And so, yeah, so little things I had to like bring my workout days down. So I had, like, if I didn't sleep well, I could reschedule a workout instead of feeling like I had to work out even if I didn't sleep well, and just continue to pound myself into the ground and feel like shit, or feel like shit because I missed a workout and I didn't feel like I completed what I was supposed to do for the week. Right. So that can kind of put you on a hamster wheel, and that's something to look out for. So we'll kind of go into more detail of how you might spot if something needs to be changed, or if it's working for you, and that sort of thing. So do you have any experiences when it comes to routine for yourself?
Man, well, yeah, I definitely do better when I'm in a solid routine. The summer has made that much harder because the kids have been home and things have just kind of been all over the place. Plus, I had surgery in the beginning of this month, and every time I would try to get into a routine, something else would happen, and Jack got pneumonia, and it was just like there's always something, especially with mom life. So it's definitely been hard, but I do know that when I am in a solid routine, that allows for flexibility. It goes much better for me. Planning ahead for that flexibility is also very important in the routine, like you said. Like, so if you have a routine plan that's super rigid and doesn't allow for anything to change, then you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure, which I've learned very, very quickly once I became like working from home, single mom kind of situation. And just, it's a lot. So I'm looking forward to getting back into our school routine because it's like very consistent. Except for like when, one of the boys is sick or something, like it's pretty consistent. And so that'll be nice. And no more surgery.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So should we go over some signs that your routine is working against you? All right. So sign number one, or red flag number one, I see this a lot, but winging it every day, which leads to decision fatigue. So we have so many decisions we have to make throughout the day. The less decisions you can give yourself, the better, because whether you're aware of it or not, it wears you down. Every decision you have to make is this emotional energy that you have to put out. So if you can plan ahead and not negotiate those decisions also after you make them, and don't be like, oh, maybe I should go at this time, or I could go a little later to the gym, and then you just end up flipping your whole schedule upside down before you even give yourself a chance to follow it. So make sure you make those solid plans. Don't let yourself negotiate those once you make the decision, and just don't think about it and just do it. Can you think of any examples where you've probably led yourself down the decision fatigue hole?
My God. The first thing that comes to mind with this is like, before I became a mother, I did not even know what decision fatigue really was. And then you become a mom and you're like, oh my God, like you're not only making decisions for yourself, but you're making decisions for your kids. Just feeding them alone is like, I know parents out here can understand what I'm going with here, is fucking exhausting, trying to figure out like what they're going to eat, especially when you have picky eaters and stuff like that. But you've actually been extremely helpful with that in helping me learn that the better I plan, the more I have stuff ready and just have an idea of what I want to do, or have food prepped like we've been doing. It really makes a huge difference because you're not deciding every day what I'm going to do here, what I'm going to do here. It's just utterly exhausting. And when you're already in chaos mode, like, two little dudes running around your house terrorizing each other and yourself and the dogs and you, the last thing you want to do is like have to figure out what am I going to make for dinner tonight. And that's just one simple thing, but it's a big one, because there's a lot of kids require a lot of food. So it's a huge help to have things planned out and ready and have that like menu ready for the week and pretty much sticking to it. And yeah, because winging it every day, it just wears you down. And honestly, it leads to a lot more fuck it modes, a lot more let's go to McDonald's, let's go to Taco Bell, let's order pizza because mommy's tired.
Yeah.
And like every once in a while, that's okay. But when it gets to where that's what you end up basically leaning on as a crutch because you just aren't planning well, that makes a big difference in your life.
Yeah, for sure. And in case you need some help for today, we've got tri-tip, we've got pork loin.
I know, I'm ready.
We got shredded chicken, so we got options, and
we're good.
You don't have
we're
to
good.
Think too hard.
Thank you for that.
So the next red flag: overcommitting to a routine that doesn't match your real life bandwidth. I think that this is something that I was struggling with, even though it fit my life at a different time. It wasn't fitting it in the moment. And that's a way to also end up in fuck it mode because you're like, damn, I apparently just can't do this. I'm not cut out for this. So I'm going to quit.
Absolutely.
But you don't have to quit. You just have to change and tweak things a little bit and do what you can. Some seasons you can step on the gas and you can really be productive and focus when chaos in your life is a little less. Other seasons, you have to take your foot off the gas a little bit and just focus on staying consistent and doing what you can, not so much hitting PRs or etc. So always make sure you're focusing on what you can stay most consistent with. And you have to be realistic and you have to be honest with yourself, which can be hard. But
yeah, absolutely.
It is so important. So it's like if I told you to work out 6 days a week and, run 3 miles every day, obviously that probably wouldn't go so well. It's a great idea in theory, except for 6 days and running 3 miles every day would not be great for recovery for anybody.
No.
But definitely not someone who has a lot going on. So you just really have to be like, what can I realistically accomplish?
I mean, even like since we've moved in together, right? And like, when I lived with my dad, I had pretty much 24/7 childcare at my disposal. So I was able to make it to the gym a lot more, but even since then, we've had to scale back the expectations of my gym attendance because it's been like, I don't necessarily always have somebody to keep the boys. So like, especially during the summer, so like seasons shift, and hopefully once we get them back into school, I'll be able to get back in more frequently, but it's just like, you can only do what you can, right? And so it's really important to be realistic about that. And I definitely found myself stressing about that. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this work? And it's like, this is all I can do. It's hard.
Yeah, for sure. So next red flag is chasing trendy optimizations instead of nailing the basics. So I think I'd put this in the category of things like ice baths or cold showers or something where, you're thinking of like the perfect morning routine. And a lot of times people try to follow or replicate someone's routine who's very successful, like a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company or something. Like they do this. So if I do this, I'll be successful. But really, someone's routine is so individual. What works for them may not work for you. In the same way with nighttime routines, there's the usual like, don't be on your screens, wind down, and make sure to do X, Y, Z for a good night's sleep. But then there's also some people like me where I'm like, I tend to do better falling asleep with the TV on. Like tried it both ways, and it calms me. It calms my nervous system. So you have to pay attention to like what is trendy and then what is optimal for you. So if you think, oh, I can't do the perfect routine of ice baths and journaling and like going for a morning run, I'm just not cut out for this. It's like, no, you just don't
Right.
have to, you don't have to do that. You got to do what you need to
Right.
do. So,
And don't let anybody tell you that falling asleep to the TV is bad for you. If that's what works, it's what fucking works.
yeah. Yeah, it's like at the end of the day, what works for you is what works for you. It might not
I
be,
need white noise, so it's like the same thing.
yeah, it's like it might not be quote unquote ideal. I wouldn't like recommend it for anybody, but it experiment what works and what doesn't. I've tried, multiple ways, and that just seems to be. I've fallen asleep to the TV for since I was young.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's
like
really
your whole
hard.
life.
Yeah, it's really hard to, feel like going to sleep in silence. Meditation will sometimes be enough for me, but if I'm a little more awake, not so much. So, yeah, next red flag feeling like fitness is something you need to survive, not something that supports you. I feel like I'd put this in the category of, being a little like OCD, like something that you feel like is required or your whole life's going to fall apart. That would be like my illogical thought process. So it's supposed to supplement your life. If you're a bodybuilder, it's a little different story. Obviously, you're prioritizing your training and your eating because it's your life, it's your lifestyle, it's your sport. But just every day trying to be healthier and stay healthy, yeah, it's supposed to support your life, not be like what you absolutely need to survive in the world.
Yeah. If you feel like you need it to survive, that's maybe something you need to talk with your therapist about.
Yeah. Like if it causes you immense anxiety to miss a workout, it definitely could be a problem that needs to be addressed.
And that's something you've dealt with, right? And you've
Oh, yeah.
been addressing it for a while.
Yeah, like every time it's exposure therapy.
It's very
for
hard.
me.
Yeah.
I feel that anxiety rev up and I have to try to like talk myself down. And it's
Yeah.
hard because when it's like on one end, you have the logical brain of being like, hey, look, like you don't have to be perfect. It's okay. We'll make it up. And then the other part of the brain is also telling me like, hey, this is how it happens. This is how you, get off track. And then all of a sudden I'm not going to be working out anymore. I'm just going to quit, like
Yeah.
it's this constant back and forth. So that's a big piece of the puzzle as far as where the anxiety comes from. Sometimes it's just your own illogical thoughts or logical thoughts arguing against each other. But in the grand scheme of things, you kind of have to remember to look at the big picture and know that, oh, like missing this one day is not going to make or break my progress, or it's not going to mean that I'm just going to quit altogether tomorrow. So that definitely requires a little bit of therapy work.
It's amazing how your brain can just go straight to like, if I miss this workout, I'm going to end up bump on a log on a couch somewhere
Yeah.
for the rest of my life.
Yeah. It's there's no in between. It's just
No, it's
I'm
all or
either
nothing.
working out or I'm not. So yeah, fun times. But
So, as far as red flags go, why do you think people ignore the red flags that you just mentioned?
I think it's just that idea that they need to push through, or maybe they're thinking it's a willpower problem or a discipline problem. They just need to be more disciplined. Discipline is a great thing that is also required, but you can also make it so you're not swimming upstream. Don't make it absolutely nearly impossible for yourself and then beat yourself up. Start small, because you're actually going to end up on more of a hamster wheel if you're going to have to like keep restarting or you keep falling off track. So again, it's just that consistency, prioritizing that, making sure you're being honest with yourself and like, am I able to stick to this consistently week after week? If yes, cool, perfect, you're in a good spot. If no, you got to change something. So that's my theory, at least.
So, as far as I'm sure you have plenty of clients who deal with this. What's your approach with your clients? I mean, I know your approach with me, but like other clients, how do you help them through this?
I mean, sometimes I'll just like ask kind of a roundabout, like, what's your usual schedule like, or what's it look like right now? What is your routine right now? And, maybe some brainstorming of some ideas of how we might switch things around or how we might take a little bit more off their plate and stick to like pure basics and foundations before we build on that, to just prevent feeling overwhelmed And I think that's one of the key things is just making sure to keep it simple. And that can go a long way. So it's almost like auditing their current schedule just to see how to improve it. And eventually, find something that works, but it can take some time for sure. So, should I go over, um, you know, what aligned routine actually looks like? One that's not going to just, you know, push you into the ground, stress you out more, and cause you to quit altogether.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, a more basic, realistic, flexible structure. Obviously, it's going to depend on your work hours. Do you have weekends free? Or do you work weekends? Uh, where can you realistically fit some non-negotiables into your schedule? So that's what you always start with. What are like two things that I know I need to do either every day or like, you know, at least 4 to 5 times per week. And then you want to build your schedule around that. When you have a job that, maybe there's a long commute, there's 9 to 5, whatever it is, you might, obviously that's going to be priority. And then you kind of have to fit things around there. So that already starts to build out your schedule. Can't change that, obviously, unless you plan on calling in sick like once a week for the rest of your life, which you would probably get fired.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. So non-negotiables, obviously, work or maybe kids, and then gym and let's say walking or something, and then build it out from there. Realistically, what you can do, you can try that out to start, see how that feels. And then if it feels pretty easy, you could add some things in, maybe some meal prep time and stuff like that. But also make sure that it's something that you can stick to when life gets even more chaotic. So flexibility in that, not making sure you're going to hit the gym every single day. So you can have some reschedule opportunities, making sure you're able to get in bed and get decent rest, making time for recovery and stuff like that. And then also keeping in mind that you can change it if you need to. I think that's definitely a big one. That's the flexible part of it all. So you might need to audit if things aren't working out, even if they worked at one point. Yeah. So
things change.
Exactly. So know what your non-negotiables are and start there. I think that's the biggest tip that I can really give for the aligned routine.
As far as, how do you know when it's time to shift your routine rather than just pushing through to burnout? I mean, like, what are, how do you know it's time to maybe make changes?
Yeah, if you just can't stay consistent with it and you're spinning your wheels, you're having to start fresh Monday and
every Monday.
If you're like beating yourself up for not doing things and it's been weeks and you haven't been able to stay consistent, it's definitely a sign that you need to make a change. So yeah, pay attention to those aspects for sure.
I don't know what that's like. Man.
So yeah, should we go into like how to reset routine without having to completely start over?
Yeah.
All right. So there's also, there's a difference between like a reset. We're all going to need to reset occasionally. Like maybe we went on vacation and we got kind of discombobulated with our routine and then it kind of takes a second to get back in the habit. That's like a good reset. Overhauls, that's just like you're doing nothing, then all of a sudden you're doing everything. Mm-hmm. That's usually a fast track to burnout. So you want to be careful with that. So it really is starting with the smallest steps that you could take that make the biggest impacts. So again, it starts with those non-negotiables. And don't make your non-negotiables impossible. Yeah, like that's how it's done, essentially.
Yeah. That makes sense. So what would you say to someone? So as someone who always has to restart on a Monday, that's where you go, for like the last 6 weeks or whatever, or longer if you're me. That's where you say, okay, like we need to do like a legit audit of what you've got going on and make a schedule. I know this last few weeks you've been having me kind of like make like a mock, like a schedule to try to stick to. And I know that for sure the number one thing that drives that schedule is sleep. And when you go to sleep and how much sleep you've gotten. And if you get up on time, because if you don't get up on time, like you said earlier, your whole day is just like,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So
yeah.
when that's the biggest hurdle, that means that needs to be one of your non-negotiables. So
Yeah.
how can you make sure to get up on time to complete the rest of your routine and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Setting a bedtime, making sure to make that decision when you're going to go to bed. Don't negotiate. Just stick to that bedtime, which can be hard because you get into watching shows and you don't want to stop
exactly.
and all that stuff. But
we have a hard time with that.
Yeah, and like that is where discipline comes in. It is a choice. We can shut the TV off and try to go to sleep, unless you have some insomnia where that wasn't so much my choice. So, but if you don't, and it's just a matter of you can't get that bedtime because you're just distracted by TV or the internet and stuff, then it's like, okay, there's some discipline that needs to be going on here.
Set an alarm that says, hey, it's time for bed.
Yeah, reminders are great because, time just goes by sometimes without even realizing it. And having that
especially
reminder,
when you're watching The Bear.
Yes, when you're watching your favorite TV shows that you could just watch endlessly, you definitely want to set a bedtime. iPhones are great. They have that bed, that like sleep and then wake up. So no excuses. The bedtime routine is built right into the phone. You can adjust it how you need.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with Android, but you can set an alarm for sure.
I don't even know how to work an Android phone. My boys have one, and I'm like, literally every time I pick it up, I'm like, how do I use this? I feel so stupid. They're like, really, Mom? I'm not dumb. I just do not know how to use it. Anyways, I have my phone set on a bedtime thing, and it tells me at 9:30, you need to get in bed. And I'm like, maybe. But that is something we definitely are going to try to prioritize, going forward. Like this week, I can't, how many times this week have I said, oh my God, how is it already 10:30?
Exactly. Having to adjust, because getting to bed realistically at 9:30 during the summer is not realistic because you got bedtime with kids because they're not going to bed as early. So that's where a shift needs to happen. And just be like, realistically, it's probably going to be 10 or 10:30. So then you build up your wake time from there.
Exactly.
And then if that's more realistic for going to sleep, it's going to be more realistic when you wake up, and then you can build a better schedule from there. So
luckily we're getting ready to go back to school, so we're going back to early bedtimes.
Yeah. It's hard not to keep trying to build that schedule off of what would be ideal, but it's not ideal if you can't stick to it.
Right. So it's really not, it's not ideal at all.
Yeah. So let's see. So
you got reducing your workouts if needed. What other habits do you think are the most important for setting a good routine? Sleep, meal prep, or of some kind to have, that, or even a menu ready, something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, meal prep is definitely huge, which you have to make sure to set time aside to actually do that. So block off that time. Especially with weekends, if you don't work weekends, people tend to forget you need structure still on your weekends. And that's why a lot of the destructive stuff kind of happens there.
Absolutely.
You don't wake up at the same time. You go to bed late and you sleep in. And then before you know it, you don't have any meals prepped or something. And you're just making decisions off the fly. Maybe you're door dashing and your weekend just flies by. You didn't have any other time to do the things you wanted to do. You didn't have time to meal prep or whatever. So make sure to try to create some structure for your weekends, even if you're not working. I would say try to keep your schedule as close as you can to what you would have during the week. I know people tend to want to sleep in on weekends. So maybe allow yourself an extra hour, but plan on it so that you are expecting it. And if you can still keep your meal times generally the same, that's also going to be very helpful. So I think scheduling your meals and eating at the same times each day is also a hack that not a lot of people think about. It really helps with keeping hunger under control. That consistency is just something that really helps, no matter if you're bulking or cutting or whatever, just because that way, one, you're not making a decision about when you're going to eat. And two, if you're meal prepping, you already have what you're going to eat ready for you. You don't even have to think about it. You just eat. Yeah.
Yeah, weekends are my Achilles heel. Achilles heel. It's hard. Weekends are really hard for me because there's no work. We've got the boys and we've got sports quite often. Man, if I have not planned, it's going downhill. It's just how it is.
So how would you plan your weekends better moving forward?
Well, I think making sure I've got stuff prepped for the weekend, which you've been helping a lot with actually. And keeping on actual meal schedules. Honestly, I think I might try like setting an alarm for the weekend also, like
Because
eat
last weekend
lunch.
you're like, oh, I didn't eat lunch. I was like, why? And you're just like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
had chicken cooked for you and
I
rice
you
cooked for you, just
literally
fresh right there for you. And you just were like,
I
no, I'm just not going to
know.
eat it. That was a decision.
It was, and it was like, what was I doing that was so important? I mean, yeah, I was spending time with my kids, but like I could have literally just like made a bowl of chicken and rice and sat down and eaten, Instead I was like ravenous at dinner and I was like, this is great. So yeah, no, definitely it makes a huge difference. So yeah, just probably setting those reminders to eat on the weekends and just trying to it's hard because I am an impulsive person. And it can definitely mess me up sometimes because I'll be like, "Hey, let's go to the movies. Let's do this," and it's just like, oh my god. And then I create chaos for myself because apparently that's the only way I know how to exist is in chaos, which is literally an entire other podcast episode. So yeah, just like minimizing the decision making that causes the chaos, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Or even
Making
like
better decisions.
planning ahead a little bit of what you might do. Like if you want to go to the movies, make that decision and create a time, maybe look at movie
Right.
time, see what time they're playing, like doing all the things ahead of time that you would do like in the spur of the moment on the weekend. And then all of a sudden, like you're skipping lunch and you
Right.
don't know what time things are happening. You're just kind of ping ponging around. So I think a lot of it is probably just like making a point to think ahead. Yeah. So,
The-
but that's also, it's a practice. It's something that you kind of, it's a habit. I think thinking ahead is a habit that you need to build. I don't think we think about it that way. We're just like, why can't I build these habits? It's just like, well, you're also not planning to build them. You're just kind of
Planning
hoping
is
you're
so
going to build
key.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
What's that quote from was it James Clear about no, you become the person like you take actions towards becoming the person you want to be, right? And you have to plan to take those actions or else they're not just going to take themselves.
yeah. So it's like if you're someone who, let's say you want to be a bodybuilder, just example. If you're like, I want to be a bodybuilder, what kind of actions would you take to like put that identity on? What does a bodybuilder do? They prioritize their workouts. They hit the gym. They prioritize their eating. They make it a priority always because it's their sport. Or even if you just want the identity of like, I want to be someone who is health conscious. So what does that look like? Then you're mindful about the food you're eating. You might make sure you're getting movement in every day, things that health conscious people do. And those are where you're voting for the person you want to become, is essentially what the quote is saying. So every action you take is a vote for that person, for that identity that you're hoping to, try on for yourself. And not that you need to create this like faux identity of someone you're not. Like it's just
That's
literally
just what's
like,
important to you.
yeah, yeah. So
And something, my therapist actually has been working on reminding me every week is like every time you make that vote towards being that person, it actually like rewires your brain to like become that. It's literally a physical thing that happens in your brain. And so it's the more you do it, the easier it becomes building habits, right?
yeah, and it builds your confidence like every time you do it. Every time you go to
Absolutely.
bed on time, you're going to feel good. It's going to give you momentum
Yeah.
to do it again because you're like, I did that.
Absolutely.
I feel so much better because I did that. And I stayed on task. Holy shit, I woke up on time.
Right?
And then I ate lunch on time. And
Ooh, waking up on time is like, I'm gonna have a good day.
exactly. I mean, nothing feels better when you do actually wake up on time and you feel like you have a head start on your day because
You're like,
you did
damn. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not rushing all day to get all my shit done.
Right. Exactly. So it really builds that confidence within yourself to keep it going. So just try to remind yourself every time you successfully do something and be like, oh, but that felt really good to do that. I want to make sure I do that again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you think of anything else we should cover on that topic?
I don't think so. I think, yeah, it's just about not being too hard on yourself and recognizing, it's okay to do a little reset the next day. If this day didn't go very well, there's always, honestly, you don't even have to wait till the next day. You can say, well, I really fucked up this morning, but like, what can I do now in this moment to make sure that the rest of the day moving forward, I can try to keep the rest of my routine, right? Like you don't have to, it's like, you don't have to just say, well, fuck it. I'm going in a fuck it mode today. Let's wait for tomorrow. Like you can literally, I've done that. I've started off my morning really with a really poor choice in breakfast or something and been like, God damn, why did I? And then you're like, well, you know what? Lunch is coming. Let's make a better decision and try to change the momentum there.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So cast those votes in the right direction. Take some action. So yeah, I think that probably about covers most of, what it takes to build a routine, especially one that is fitting for you. And once you get into it, you'll probably, like if you've never followed a routine before and you are someone who's more impulsive or just kind of fly by the seat of your pants or whatever the saying is, if you want to stay consistent with fitness, you cannot live that way. You just can't, you have to plan ahead. Everyone benefits from at least a little structure in your life. Structure is good. It's something that we need. It's something that like adults tend to try to do for their kids, build consistency and structure. And
Very
we
good
are
point.
not any different. We're adults, but that doesn't mean we don't need the same things. We just get to make our own structure and decisions. We don't have someone making it for us. So then it becomes your responsibility to make it for yourself. You have to parent yourself, essentially.
So really think about that before it's like, I have a very strict bedtime with my kids. I always have. It's the only way. Like once Jackson was born and we had two, like the only way I survived was getting them on a sleep routine, right? The only way. And it was best for them. I had to make sure they got the right amount of sleep. It's good for their health, blah, 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 blah. But I definitely never thought like, I need to make sure I get the right amount of sleep too, right? Because that's just as important. So yeah, definitely important to remember how, you matter too, not just your kids or whoever you're taking care of. Like, yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're going to be a better mom if you're not sleep deprived and just being like, like I don't have any energy.
Absolutely.
And then you're just like triggered by your kids, just annoyed by everything because you need a nap. Essentially, you need an adult nap.
I always need a nap.
So it's like in the long run, it benefits everybody. It definitely benefits your health. Yeah, think of how would you address things if you were being a parent to yourself and looking out for your own best interest. That's usually kind of the best way to go when you're trying to make decisions and figuring out like a want versus a need. It was
Absolutely.
so much easier when adults just said no. Like,
right?
You didn't have as many decisions because you didn't have as much freedom.
Absolutely.
Responsibility is it does create freedom. Being able to do what you want is great, but it also creates more responsibility. So yeah, there's always going to be something.
I mean, Jackson definitely told me the other day he has no interest in being an adult because it's stressful and hard and there's too many decisions to make and too much responsibility. And I'm like, well, you're going to get there eventually, kid.
Yeah, he's got a while, but he'll get there. So, yeah. So I think we're good to close it out, unless you have any last words.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So yeah, if you're overwhelmed by your routine, it's okay to change it. It's not being a failure. You're just adapting. You're being flexible. You're being smart, and you're focusing on consistency over perfection. And so I would love to hear what your biggest hurdles are with your routine or something you're working on, feel free to leave that in the comments. And make sure to subscribe, share this with a friend if you feel like they need to hear this, but definitely subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. But would love to hear your thoughts. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Bye.